Tito Flores.
First of all, my thanks to the Sophia for this invitation. That's okay. And thanks for the Sophia for this invitation. And I guess it's particularly hard to me to disagree with Peter Klein because I have received so much influence from him that it's a tough task to disagree with him, and I won't disagree. I just have an observation about the problem of the easy knowledge. At least in contemporary epistemology, the ancestry of the problem of easy knowledge was aimed to be a criticism against some forms of externalism. This seems to have been one of Humerton's points in meta-epistemology and skepticism, and more recently in Vogel's reliabilism leveled. The objection to externalism was based on the idea that theories like reliabilism would permit what Vogel called bootstrapping, a strategy that, according to him, seems to be strongly counterintuitive. To sum up the idea, bootstrapping consists of using a source of knowledge to justify the reliability of this very same source. In other words, bootstrapping serves to transform the belief that results from a process into the very proof of the reliability of that process. As far as I know, in his externalism and skepticism, Michael Bergman pointed out that bootstrapping could be a problem not just to externalist theories like reliabilism, but to internalist theories as well. Perhaps it was Cohen in his paper Basic Knowledge and the Problem of Easy Knowledge that made Bergman's point more explicit. Cohen claimed that the problem of easy knowledge threatens all theories that adopt a basic knowledge structure. By Cohen's definition, a basic knowledge structure is one that permits that, I quote, a belief source can deliver knowledge prior to one's knowing that the source is reliable and hold that reliability knowledge is based on basic knowledge. He then claimed that in principle, a basic knowledge structure might be a structure not only of externalist theories but also of internalist ones. What is remarkable is the way in which Cohen unified the criticism for both externalism and internalism. He used the KR principle, which states that a potential knowledge source K can yield knowledge for S only if S knows K is reliable. Furthermore, in denying KR, a theory assumes a basic knowledge structure and then rejects the problem of the criterion. The KR principle can be seen as the Pyrrhonian claim that poses the problem of the criterion. That is, the problem of the criterion arises from the acceptance of KR. What we must note here is that the KR principle and the problem of the criterion both have what we can call a meta-epistemological nature. The problem of the criterion, then, is a higher order problem, which means that it's a problem about whether we can know that we know. After all, the meta-epistemological nature of the problem of the criterion, and consequently of the problem of easy knowledge, given that the former is a problem derived from an alternative response to the problem of the criterion, is in perfect accordance with the original inspiration of the criticism against reliabilism. For Vogel, for example, a form of reliabilism that he called neighborhood reliabilism is too weak. It would allow us higher level knowledge we do not have. So the problem of easy knowledge, if in fact such a problem exists, must be understood as the problem of the easiness of higher level knowledge acquisition. As I have been saying, the problem of easy knowledge is a consequence of certain strategy to deal with the problem of the criterion. More specifically, and using Cohen terms, the problem of easy knowledge is supposed to be a consequence of trying to resolve the problem of the criterion avoiding KR principle by means of a basic knowledge structure view. So, the problem of easy knowledge arises when using a certain strategy to resolve a higher order problem, which could be well represented by the knowledge of the reliability of a knowledge source, provided that knowing that the source used to come to know P is reliable means knowing that we know P. This point is perfectly clear in a passage from Goldman's Epistemology and Cognition, which is also quoted by Cohen, that says, to know that we know, we would have to know that we use reliable processes. To consider the relation between the problem of easy knowledge and the problem of the criterion is fruitful because we can then better understand what kind of knowledge is easily acquired. In other words, we can see what the problem of easy knowledge is about. Cohen claimed that we have two ways to arise the problem of easy knowledge, namely closure and bootstrapping. But bootstrapping, above all when we think about reliabilism, clearly appears to be a strategy to come to know that we know, since it would permit to come to know that our knowledge sources are reliable. For Klein, Cohen's idea that there are two ways to arise the problem of easy knowledge is not true, in the sense that closure is not a possible way to arise that problem. I think we must agree with Klein's point here. But in my opinion, if closure is not a way to arise the problem of easy knowledge, it is because the relation between the use of closure and a strategy to come to know that we know is not clear. Furthermore, it's not altogether evident how the higher order question is addressed in Klein's paper when he talks about the problem of easy knowledge. I would like to say that Cohen has two quite different questions at stake in his paper. One of them is the higher order question posed by the KR principle, which is represented by the easy acquisition of reliability knowledge through bootstrapping. The other is the supposedly easy knowledge acquired through closure. Cohen describes as follows the problem of easy knowledge faced by internalism. If I know the table is red on the basis of its looking red, then it follows by the closure principle that I can know that it's not the case that the table is white but illuminated by red lights. Presumably, I cannot know that it's not the case that the table is white illuminated by red lights on the basis of the table's looking red. Apparently, the problem here is that it would be too easy to come to know that the table is not white but illuminated by red lights on the basis of its looking red. I think we all must agree with Klein when he says that the question is if it is possible to know that the table is red by reasoning from the table looks red, and not the following movement, which includes the closure principle from the table is red to the table is not white but illuminated by red lights. But if we consider the three steps, one, it looks red, two, I know it is red, and three, I know it's not white but illuminated by red lights, the controversial movement is from the first to the second, and not from the second to the third. But what is more important is that regardless of what kind of knowledge will be identified as either easily or illegitimately gained in the case involving closure, it will not be a higher order knowledge. Therefore, Peter is right when he said that closure does not contribute to the so-called problem of easy knowledge. But perhaps the simplest way to explain that is so because the problem of easy knowledge does not receive motivation from closure precisely due to the fact that it's a sort of higher order problem derived from the denial of KR principle. The lack of motivation could come from the meta-epistemological nature that the problem of easy knowledge inherited from the problem of the criterion. Again, the most important point seems to be that knowledge that is obtained too easily is higher order knowledge. In some passages, Klein appears to be clear about it. I quote, according to basic knowledge structure views, such knowledge of reliability of our sources, of our knowledge sources, is attainable, but only after we acquire a substantial amount of information about the world. The problem is that once we allow for basic knowledge, we acquire reliability knowledge very easily. But this does not appear to be the case for his entire paper, which could make some level of confusion likely when identifying what sort of knowledge we shall consider easily or illegitimately acquired. The difference between closure and bootstrapping is then a fundamental one. Closure does not motivate any easy higher-order knowledge, and for that reason, Klein is probably wrong in suggesting that closure could be a way to arise the problem of easy knowledge. On the other hand, bootstrapping is a way to come to know that our belief sources are reliable, so it has a higher order nature. This difference is crucial. I have assumed that Klein's suggestion is true, that, I quote, theories that allow for basic knowledge have a distinct advantage here, since they can appeal to our basic knowledge in order to explain how we know our belief sources are reliable. But I'm not altogether sure that the existence of some advantage in those theories. And if there's no advantage, there's no problem of easy knowledge, because all we have in this case is the problem of the criterion. In any case, what seems clear is that there is no interesting way to analyze the problem of the criterion or the problem of easy knowledge if we consider that there exists a genuine problem while ignoring we are facing a problem of higher order knowledge. In assuming there does in fact exist a genuine problem of easy knowledge, we must agree that that problem is a meta-epistemological one, as a consequence of being derived from a certain strategy to deal with the problem of the criterion. Despite of the fact that closure matters have importance themselves, perhaps showing that closure does not motivate the problem of easy knowledge does not touch the core of the question, since the key point regarding that problem is its meta-epistemological nature. On the other hand, bootstrapping might be a sure way to find some easy knowledge, because it appears more clearly to be a strategy to come to know that we know. To finish, as Peter has concluded his paper by manifesting a hunch concerning bootstrapping, I would like to ask about that hunch, particularly regarding the application of his analysis of the problem of easy knowledge to the bootstrapping case, which correctly characterizes the higher order question that is clearly involved here. Thank you.